Ninja is basically just we want to see how the uncompressed output compares to the C300 as well as to the AVC HD. And my experience with AVC HD is that it actually holds up pretty well. We're going to test it more in isolating colors in secondaries, which my guess is that that's where it's really going to perform better than the internal 420 color space. So this is just dynamic range. There's a fair amount of shadow here. We'll probably get another one. I think Teddy's shot up a pretty good shot that has plenty of shadow in it. But yeah, it's just kind of pushing the dynamic range and seeing where we're losing detail.
It's kind of tough to tell.
So what are you running into?
So I'm just doing the 100% focus check here, and it's, at least for far away subjects, it's a little difficult to tell exactly where he's in focus here. Okay, and action.
Definitely notice a little bit of a quality difference. Well, like Indie.
Yeah. Well, I read about that. They said that he's a lot cheaper than that, right?
It's a lot cheaper, but it's like, okay, well, I appreciate that you saved me a few $1,000s just on a simple button thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. This is a little bit flimsier, so it seems like it's definitely not as bad as the FS700. That is like really cheap, clunky. This is not that bad.
I like the fact that it's not electronic, simply because if I'm switching too fast maybe, or who knows, I'm trying to grab a shot, I feel like that electronic switch could give out
slow, yeah.
like eventually, rather than my manual just flipping through to
That's true.
get
You
to
probably
that.
have a lot more uses with this.
Yeah. Whereas you may have to you wear out, you might need a repair with the C300 versus this.
I feel like I have to take my hand out of the holster when I want to access some of my menu settings. Like when I want to go deep in the menu, I have to pull my hand out and then go through it to change some of the settings. But other than that, I actually like the layout of the buttons. I think it's easier to find what I need than on the C300. The shutter, the white balance, the picture profile seems to make a little bit more sense of the placement of where they're at in the camera. And I'm interested to actually get back and program some of the buttons on the back, like the play and the stop button. Just try to customize it to what I need.
So I'm just gonna punch in really quick on the slate here, the magnify option. And one thing about the C100 that I wish it had, it was a 2x optical zoom in, so I could really see my focus points. And similar to the DSLRs that they have on their line, like the 5D and the 7D, it's just one thing that I kind of noticed that I do prefer.
And action. Cam up in the shot. Cut. Let's see that one more time.
This shot, I mostly just want to compare G-Log, which is one of my favorite profiles for the FS100. It just creates a nice flat image. Basically retains all of the dynamic range, which is kind of the idea of C-Log. I'm comparing them because these cameras both use the same codec, so different sensors and everything, but they're both profiles that I like to shoot in, and I just want to see how these two cameras stack up in flat profiles.
I don't know, I like the form factor in the sense that it's, I was talking to Teddy earlier and I was saying that it's literally like someone took like a 5D and then built in all video features around that form factor.
Yeah.
So you have actual video tools in a DSLR size. To me, it looks a lot sharper than DSLR footage, and I think maybe that has to do with the fact that it's, you know, a smaller sensor than the 5D as well as it's actually like a 1080 signal instead of a res 720.
Right.
On
I think it has a lot.
5D.
Yeah, I think it's definitely that it's getting an actual 422 scan.
Yeah.
And it's not traditional debayering with this.
Right.
Which is why it's so sharp.
I don't know. It's a nice feel. I could see myself using it the same way I would use an HPX or an HVX, but I can also build it up and use it in something that requires a little bit more of a cinematic feel, a little bit more narrative style. Mm-hmm. It seems like it would scale really well, and especially at the price point. Comparing this footage just even on screen and through other monitoring devices and stuff like that, it looks to be a little bit nicer quality as far as like color is concerned compared to the FS100. I feel like it handles highlights better. I feel like it handles, what am I trying to say? Like some color gradations better, so like in banding and different things like that. I really like the fact that there's a little waveform on here. That's a huge plus that I'm missing on a lot of these cameras. And I think that it's really nice that they do allow the clean HDMI out for recording on here. I like the fact that this is powered just forever and ever and ever. This camera was on like all day long, and we barely even noticed that, forget about power consumption. So if you have something where I guess you'd be shooting Red or C300 and you're not necessarily worried about like full-on HD presentation, you're going online or you're going to something more local, or you don't have to worry about broadcast standards and all that kind of stuff. Anything that you would use a DSLR for or an FS100 for, I'd say that this is a nicer package altogether, gets a job done.
Immediately what I'm thinking about when I go to the 5D and then back to this is that the tools on there probably help out a lot with that, because you have a lot more information to go on. Mm-hmm. I mean, the waveform number one is awesome. Yeah, you can use a histogram. I don't like histograms because they don't actually give you that much information as much as a waveform, so I think that definitely helps with getting your exposure fine-tuned. Plus, with some of those tools, you can actually visualize your depth of field a little bit better. Nothing I'm really not liking. I think a lot of it has to do with seeing a little bit of grain at 2000, where it's definitely more noticeable in the blacks, where I typically don't see noise and grain with the C300 until probably 8000 maybe, on the monitor.
You're seeing the same thing in 2000.
I'm seeing kind of the same thing at 2000. We'll see in post though. I'll take a look at it later and see if I'm still getting the same thing. I mean, I cranked it all the way, and it's probably just a combination of the weird temperature, the weird color temperature we were getting out there. There's a lot of mix of light, but it seemed to like start to shift purple almost. That's weird. It had like a little bit more like blue grain, whereas the C300 tends to have red and green grain.
I prefer the look of these cameras,
right,
because they're real video cameras. I really like the build on this camera, and I really like some things I really like about the C100 are, for documentary filmmaking, it's got everything built into it, and it's small, it's compact.
Yeah.
I can put lenses on it, and I can control my look that way. But as far as like the build goes, this monitor right here, if I'm shooting handheld without a big rig and I want to put it up against my chest, I can't look like on the viewfinder, and that could be a problem. That's one thing. And then the EVF, I mean, you just look at it where it's located. I feel like
it's pretty worthless.
Your head's directly into it. Whereas the C300, I really like how their monitor, you could move it around and manipulate it a little more.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way that you can use the viewfinder is if you don't even have this grip on here, which means that you're probably not going to have audio. Some of the stuff like the buttons, like straight for gain and for ISO and shutter, that's useful instead of punching through a function button. Because I know when I'm shooting with the C300, that's one of the. I mean, it's a great documentary camera. Yeah. Bar none, probably the best available right now.
I agree.
But when I'm shooting it DocuStyle, having to go back to that function and toggle through it is kind of annoying, and I always go past my settings. But with this, you just push one button and then you're
there. Yeah.
As far as the image goes, it's kind of hard to tell just from looking at the monitor, but compared to the DSLR, the first thing is obviously that there's a lot more detail, and gradients seem to be smoother.
Coming from action sports and stuff, and
Right.
and like documentary filmmaking, and like trying to bring a higher production value to every shoot with people who move around. I like these cameras a lot. You know, just because they're so compact. You got great audio options. You can put lenses on. It's all right there, and you got a good image. You know, for a camera under 10 grand, I think this is definitely a good.
Well, I mean, I think, and that's a good point, especially with your background. The benefit, even if you don't like all the things about the image of DSLRs, they still have that niche where they're quick to move. You know.
Yeah.
And there's tons of, they're lightweight, and you can throw them on stuff. And you know, throw them on stuff that you can't throw an Epic or a Scarlett on because they're too heavy. And I think that's one of the reasons why DSLRs still have a place, is because they're so small and they're inconspicuous. Obviously, we have these giant lenses on them, so less so. But and that's what people coming from DSLRs, they're liking those features and everything being right at their fingertips, which I think this has a lot of. And I think it's a good compromise between like a full-size E&G camera and. Obviously, it's super 35mm sensor. You're getting something a little more cinematic.
Yeah.
But the big benefit for me, forget all the ergonomics and stuff, is you're retaining a lot more detail. I mean, the thing, even compare this camera to, just comparing it to the other ones in its class, it's just, I mean, there's a lot of things that I like about the form factor of the DSLR. It's just obvious, like you said, and it's the image. It's different, and you like the image that you get out of cameras that are purpose-built instead of something that's meant to be kind of in between.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the nice thing about it, is that they're bringing the price down. You're still getting a great image quality, and we'll see how it holds up. But my guess is that it's probably going to hold up fairly well, and the image looks great on here. So, especially if you shoot a lot of stuff that ends up going web, you know, which that's like most of what's being produced today.
It's the majority.
This is going to be a pretty good camera for that.
Cool, man. Well, hey, thanks. It's a fun day.
Pleasure.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Yeah, for sure.
Teddy Hoffman here, signing off.
That's going in.